Hey, so I feel kind of depressed, a bit in a shitty mood, so prepare yourself for some depressing talk, depressing things that I'm about to say. So, I'm staying at this guest house that I stayed at 7 years ago. I know I've only been here for a few days, but so far it's been pretty bad. Great. Interrupts my video. You can't even hear what they're saying on that megaphone. What's the point in using it? It just sounds like blah, 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 blah. I wonder if Japanese people can understand what they're saying. Maybe they can. It doesn't sound like anything. It just sounds like a blur of words. What was I saying? So yeah, basically it's really shit here. Why is it shit here? Well, I don't know. There's just hardly any people. I go to the living room in the evening and there's maybe four or five people at most. And they don't even talk. They just sit there staring at their phones. I guess I do the same, so I can't really complain. But it just feels so different now compared to 7 years ago when I came here last time. Maybe it's because 7 years ago most people didn't have smartphones. Now that I think about it, 7 years ago people weren't staring at their phones all the time. They actually interacted with people. It just feels so different right now compared to 7 years ago. Maybe it's because I'm looking through rose-tinted goggles. You know, everything you do for the first time, it's always the best. If you do the same thing again later, it always feels like it's not as good as the first time. Maybe that's because it's nostalgic. The people here so far that I've met are just so boring. I met this Italian guy and this Taiwanese guy. I talked to them for a bit. But on the second day I didn't feel like I wanted to talk to them anymore. It just wasn't interesting talking to them. They're not interesting people to me. There's no groups here. For example, 7 years ago, there was a group of people who were travelling. There was a bunch of Korean people, a group of Canadians, some Americans, and they were actually fun, interesting people. There was a small group of Japanese people, but right now it just feels like, well, most of the people that I've seen here have been Japanese guys. And I don't really want to sound racist, but I have absolutely no interest in Japanese guys. I find them to be extremely boring and dull. When I see a Japanese guy, I think, oh god, not another Japanese guy. I know it's kind of strange to come to Japan and not be interested in talking to Japanese people. I really want there to be more people who speak English. I find it really difficult to become friends with non-English speakers or non-native English speakers. It feels like there's a wall in between us that I can't break down. If I talk to an American or a Canadian or a British guy or an Australian guy, I feel like it's easier to relate to them because we're speaking the same language natively. I felt like this before, the third time I came to Japan. There were hardly any Westerners. It was just Japanese people, Taiwanese people, Vietnamese, Thai. And I felt so isolated being the only Western person here. It's pretty stupid, isn't it? I live in a country full of native English speakers, and yet I come to Japan and then I start whinging about there not being any Western people or English native speakers. it just feels completely different this time. The thing is, I had such a great time the first time I came to Japan and stayed in a guest house. Even the second time was really fun. But the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, every time I come back here, it's more shit than the last time. I feel more lonely than the last time. Even if I come to a guest house and I'm optimistic about meeting people and making friends, it always becomes boring and shit, and I find myself being uninterested in the people here. There's a very specific type of person that I'm interested in, and it's hard to explain. If I meet 10 people, the chances are that I'll find 9 out of 10 of them to be really boring and not interesting, and then there'll be that one kind of strange person that I feel attracted to. Whether they're male or female, it doesn't matter. They need to have that certain personality. For example, that Japanese guy I met last year, I really got on well with him. I don't know why, but there's something about him that I liked. Maybe it's because he also seems kind of depressed. You know, misery likes company. I guess the saying is true. Really positive, high energy people turn me off. I feel really, repelled by those kind of people. I just don't understand how they can be so happy and energetic all the time. It's weird. No one's that happy. You must be either faking it, or you're really lucky, or you have some kind of mental illness. It just felt so much more active and lively 7 years ago. And there was a variety of people from different backgrounds. I can't stand it when it's majority Japanese people. They're so dull. And they form their own little Japanese group bubble that's almost impossible to get into, even if you can speak Japanese. It doesn't matter if you can speak Japanese. You're not Japanese, so it's going to be difficult to connect to Japanese people because you don't share the same experiences, you don't share the same culture. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of foreigners come to Japan and they feel so damn isolated and lonely. It's weird. I feel Western inside. I may look Asian, but on the inside I'm not Asian at all. I desire Western people to talk to. I don't really feel interested in talking to Asian people. Unless they're girls and they're cute and they're interested in me. If people show interest in me, then I instantly like them. If they come to me and they start asking me questions, and it seems like they're actually interested in who I am, what I'm doing, then I feel like a switch has been flicked on inside of me. I feel happy. But most people aren't like that. Most people won't just come up to you and show interest in you for no reason. That's not how it works. But it does happen sometimes. I think that might be the reason why I like that Japanese guy from last year so much. Because he actually seems like he's interested in me. And I enjoy talking to him because he seems interested by my stories. That's what I'm like. If people show an interest in me, then I like them straight away. But if I feel like they're not interested in me, then it's like they don't exist to me. I just completely ignore them. I guess you could say, if you want people to be interested in you, you have to show interest in them first. The thing is, I don't find people interesting. 9 out of 10 times I find people to be extremely boring. I know that's a strange thing to say, because how can you tell if someone's interesting or not unless you actually try talking to them? I guess I have this gut feeling on whether I find someone interesting or not. I don't know. I know it's early days, it's only day 3, but already I feel kind of depressed, really lonely. And I keep comparing it to 7 years ago. Well, 7 years ago, this happened, that happened. There were these kind of people here. This time, shit. This time, there's no sense of community. People just keep to themselves. I mean, where's the American people? Where's the English people? I know this is Japan, but why are there so many bloody Japanese people in here? I thought it was supposed to be like a 50-50 ratio of foreigners and Japanese people. The problem with Japanese people is they're not really interested in socializing. They come home from work or school, they have their meal, and then they go to their rooms. They don't hang around. The difference with foreigners is they're here on holiday, or they're here to study, so they don't just go straight to their rooms. They sit around in the living room, they talk to people, they're fun. That's what it was like the first time in Japan, the second time in Japan. The third, fourth, maybe even fifth time was just shit. There's no other way to explain it. It was just shit and boring. And I don't know why I keep coming back to the guest house, to these guest houses. Maybe it's because I keep expecting it to be like the first time or the second time, but it never is. I'm 7 years older now. The first time I came to Japan, everything was new. Everything was exciting. I didn't know anything. Now I kind of feel like I'm a veteran of Japan. Nothing excites me anymore. Nothing's interesting. It just feels like, oh, this is Japan. I've been here 7 times. I know how everything works. I know what to do. Nothing's interesting. Maybe I should go to a new country, but I'm not interested in going to any other countries. No countries interest me. Why would I choose to go to another country instead of going to Japan? Can't think of any reason. It feels kind of strange to be back on this rooftop. I had a few emotional moments here. I made out with that Korean girl up here, the one that got away. We had an evening stroll, and then we decided to come up. We decided to come up to the rooftop to see the moon, and we were leaning up against this chain fence, which you can't really see, and I was behind her, and I decided to kiss her, and then we started to kiss, and for some reason we ended up lying on the floor, and I think if I kept going, we would have nearly had sex. We might have had sex, but for some reason I stopped, and we got up, and she said she was going to her room, and that was it. That was the last time we ever did anything. And then the second time I came to this rooftop was when my Korean ex-girlfriend left to go back to Korea, and I sent her back. I went with her back to the ferry place, and I said goodbye, and I came back to the guest house by myself, and I came up to this rooftop, and then I just started crying. I cried so much, like a baby. I was so depressed and sad. Because I was in this guest house for 5 months. For the first month, I was completely by myself, and then the Korean girl came, and then for a few months, 3 months, we were in a relationship, and for the first time I felt not alone. And then she had to go back to Korea, and I was back to being alone again for the last month, and I felt dead inside. I stopped going down to the living room. I stayed in my room the whole time. It was horrible. It's kind of strange to be back up here. There's not really much to see, it's just apartments. This whole place is just apartments, it's a residential area. I don't know why I find it more difficult. I feel like I'm a better person than I was 7 years ago. I feel like I look better, I wear better looking clothing, I don't have a strange hairstyle. My skin's better, I don't have pimples as much as before. I feel more confident as a person. I have a pretty cool sounding job. I mean, translator sounds pretty cool, right? But yet, I don't find it any easier to connect with people. I find it harder, more difficult. Maybe it's because I just realised that I'm not interested in people. Honestly speaking, I'm not interested in people. I don't care about making friends. The only reason why I would want to make friends is if it would lead to sex somehow. And the only thing that motivates me to meet people in the first place is because it might lead to sex. If I knew that there was 100% chance that it wouldn't lead to sex, then I wouldn't even talk to them. I don't really find socializing to be enjoyable. I'd rather sit by myself, watch YouTube, play games. But watching YouTube and playing games do not lead to sex. So unfortunately, I have to force myself to socialize and pretend to be interested in people. But the thing is, when I realize that it's not going to lead to sex, then I just lose interest in talking to those people completely, 100%. These are my true feelings, my true thoughts. I don't care if it sounds stupid or immature to you. This is how I feel. This is who I am. If you don't like that kind of personality, which I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't like it. Most people wouldn't like it. Most people aren't like me. Most people aren't only driven by sex. I know that. I'm not stupid. I know I'm weird, but this is what I'm like. What can I do about it? I don't know. I feel kind of depressed today. When I'm at home in England, I feel like I'm expecting too much. I have all these, fantasies about going to Japan, staying at a guest house, making amazing friends, meeting cute girls, having lots of sex, but it never turns out like that. That only happened the first time and the second time. The third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh time, it didn't happen. People don't usually keep coming back to guest houses. It's a place where you try living for a short while when you're young, just to experience it, and then you move on. You get your own place, you get a better job, you start a relationship with someone, you start living with them. The only types of people who live in guest houses for a long period of time are losers, divorced men who have nowhere else to go. It's pretty strange for someone to keep coming back to guest houses. I feel like everyone's moving forwards with their lives. Like everyone has a plan, like everyone knows what they want to do or what they have to do. And I'm just going round in circles. I'm not really moving forwards. I'm repeating the same thing over and over again. So I can try and relive past memories that were enjoyable. But even if I retrace my steps and I try and do the same things that I did 7 years ago or back then, it's never as fun as it was the first time. I can never successfully recreate those enjoyable memories. It's always nowhere near as fun or enjoyable as the first time or the second time. But I don't know what else to do. What should I do to move forwards? People always say the same thing. You should study something. You should get a career. You should learn a skill so you can start a career in something. Will that make me happy? Will that make things better? Let's say I went out and I learned how to become a plumber, and then I got a job plumbing. Okay, now I'm a plumber. Now what? So I'll earn a bit more money. Will girls be interested in me because I'm a plumber? Would I be happy being a plumber? No, of course I won't. If I knew what kind of job I would be happy doing, then I would be going for that already, wouldn't I? And the thing is, there isn't really a job that I really want to do. I don't want to do anything. Yeah, I'm lazy. I don't want to work. Big surprise. Pretty sure most people don't want to work. The thing is, I don't have to work right now. And I'm lucky that way, because most people, they have to work. They don't have a choice. They get kicked out. They don't have kind parents. They have to support themselves, but I don't have that pressure. And maybe that's a bad thing. It sounds great, doesn't it? Oh, he doesn't have to work. He's so lucky. He just gets to piss around in Japan and then sit at his house. Sit in his parents' house all day, playing games. It sounds great, but it's a shit way of living. It's unfulfilling. But I think that's better than having to be stuck with being forced to do a job that you hate, or being forced to work with people that you hate. So that sounds more depressing to me. I've had a lot of jobs in the past. I've tried a lot of things. Office, cleaning, kitchen, cooking, customer service, retail. I've done a lot of things, and I hated all of them. They didn't make me feel any happier. Just because I earned more money didn't make me feel happier. Just because I had a job didn't make me feel any happier. I just felt stressed out. That's the only difference it made. Who's actually happy though? I walk around in Japan, I go to the train station, I see these exhausted salarymen, people finishing their workday, going home at 8 PM in the evening. Do they look happy? No, they look like they want to die. They look like they're dead inside. Who's more happy, me or that person, or those salarymen? Who knows? It feels like you have to make a choice. If you want freedom, then you're going to be poor and you're not going to have a good career and people won't respect you. But you have freedom. If you have a good job and a career, then people will respect you. You earn better money, you can get a nice girlfriend. But what do you sacrifice for that? You sacrifice your time, your freedom. You have to put up with a lot of things that you wouldn't want to put up with. Maybe that's what being a grown-up is about. And if that's the case, then I don't want to be a grown-up. I take freedom over being respected or having a fancy girlfriend or having lots of money. I'd rather be that homeless guy lying in the park than some stressed-out office worker who wants to kill himself after working a long shift, day in, day out. Life is difficult, isn't it? It's pretty simple if you think about it. All you have to do is get food and water, have a place to live and have sex, and what else do you need? But it's not really that simple. And it's not easy to get those basic things unless you're rich or have nice parents like me. What am I talking about? I don't actually remember what I've been talking about. I just had a whole can of whiskey, highball. It was pretty good. 7% alcohol. Now it's about 9 PM. I need to piss really badly. I'm gonna go to my room, masturbate, watch some Japanese porn, and then fall asleep hopefully, then rinse and repeat. Day after day, day after day. Until October, then I can meet my wonderful girlfriend. Hopefully she's wonderful. I'm pretty sure she will be. But I still have my doubts and worries about that as well. We'll have to see. It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I want to meet her soon. And I hope she does too. You do you? I hope you do.